I like taking you to fantastic places. Today, I will take you to discover the Golden Inca Road. I chose to walk the Golden Inca Trail because something inside me kept whispering that there was a part of myself I hadn't met yet. For months, I had felt a quiet pull, like an invisible thread connecting my heart to a distant place I had never seen but somehow remembered. The decision wasn't about tourism, it was about awakening. It was about going somewhere ancient enough to hold my questions and silent enough to let me hear the answers. I wanted to feel what the Incas once felt, the strength of their footsteps, the intention behind every stone, the stories hidden in every curve of the path. I wanted to breathe air untouched by hurry, stress, or noise. I wanted to listen to a landscape that speaks in the language of wind, light, and memory. And so, with a simple backpack, a heart full of curiosity, and a soul ready to be shaken, I finally set out toward the trail. From the very first step, I felt a soft tremble in my chest, as if the earth recognized me, as if the mountains knew I was coming. The air was crisp, cool, almost sacred. It brushed against my skin with the gentleness of an ancient welcome. Every breath entered my body like a blessing. Every exhale seemed to release something heavy I didn't even know I was carrying. Ahead of me, the trail opened like a golden ribbon woven between mountains. The stones, polished by centuries of travelers, glowed with warm sunlight. Their edges were soft, almost alive. I touched one with my fingertips, and I swear it felt like touching history itself. Quiet, powerful, patient. I walked slowly at first, not because I was tired, but because every step felt meaningful. Like each footprint was stitching me closer to a forgotten truth within myself. The silence around me wasn't empty at all. It was full of birdsong distant echoes, hidden creatures moving softly through the brush. And in that living silence, my own thoughts grew clearer. The fears that used to overwhelm me softened. My doubts loosened their grip. My heart felt lighter, more open. The sun filtered to the mountains in long golden beams. They fell across the trail like blessings placed gently in my path. The wind carried the scent of earth, moss, and something ancient I couldn't name. It felt like the mountains were breathing with me, guiding me forward. As I continued walking, I felt a strange warmth rising in my chest. Not physical warmth, something deeper. A feeling of belonging, a feeling of being exactly where I was meant to be. With every step, I sensed the presence of the past, not as ghosts or memories, but as soft whispers of courage, resilience, and purpose. And somehow, those whispers began to echo inside me. As I moved deeper along the Golden Trail, something inside me began to shift. The world around me seemed to expand, as if each step peeled back another layer of reality. The air tasted different now, richer, denser, almost sweet. It carried the aroma of wild herbs, damp earth, and the distant promise of rain. I inhaled slowly, letting the scent rest on my tongue before releasing it into the open sky. The stones beneath my feet changed too. Some were larger, shaped with a precision that felt impossible for their time. Others were smaller, but each one fit perfectly into the next, like a puzzle only the mountains themselves could solve. I knelt down at one point and placed my palm flat against the ground. The stone was warmer than it should have been, as if the trail still held the lingering heartbeat of every soul who had walked here before me. The mountains surrounding me rose like guardians, silent, powerful, ancient. Their peaks were veiled in a thin mist that curled gently in the air, floating like memories refusing to disappear. The light shifted as clouds drifted overhead, painting the landscape in slow, graceful strokes of silver and gold. It felt like standing inside a living painting, one that changed with every breath I took. As I climbed higher, the wind began to hum around me. Not whistle, hum. A deep, resonant vibration that wrapped around my body like a protective cloak. I closed my eyes for a moment, letting the sound vibrate through my chest. It felt almost like a song, one I recognized without ever having heard before. A song that reminded me that I wasn't just walking a trail, I was being invited into a story. Vegetation thickened at the sides of the path. Ferns brushed against my ankles, and tiny flowers, delicate and luminous, sprouted from cracks and stones. Their colors were soft yet bright, like small drops of sunrise resting on the earth. Each one felt like a small miracle. I leaned down to observe them more closely, and the petals trembled gently, as if acknowledging my presence. Further ahead, I noticed something unexpected. Carved into a rock wall was a symbol, an Inca mark I had only seen in books. A spiral, perfectly etched, still sharp after centuries. I reached out and traced its outline with my fingertip. The stone felt alive under my touch, vibrating faintly, like a quiet pulse. It was a message left by those who came long before. A message I couldn't fully understand, but I could feel. And then, a sudden gust of wind rushed past me. It carried with it the sound of distant water, soft, rhythmic, steady. I followed the sound, curiosity guiding my steps like a gentle hand. After a few minutes, the trail curved, and I saw it, a narrow stream dancing down the rocks, shimmering under the sun like liquid glass. I approached slowly, almost afraid to disturb the perfection of the moment. Kneeling beside the water, I cupped my hands and lifted a small pool to my lips. The water was cold, pure, alive. As it slid down my throat, I felt something awaken inside me. Not energy, not strength, but clarity. For the first time in a long while, my thoughts aligned. My heart felt calm. My mind felt open. And I knew, deeply, that this journey was transforming me in ways I couldn't yet name. The sound of the stream lingered behind me as I continued along the trail, its gentle rhythm echoing in my mind like a soft reminder of the peace I had just felt. But as I walked farther, something new began to stir in the air. A subtle tension, a quiet electricity, as if the landscape were preparing to reveal something extraordinary. The path narrowed slightly, bordered by tall moss-covered stones that rose on either side like ancient pillars. Their surfaces were adorned with faint carvings, lines, angles, curves, so delicate they almost looked like they were drawn by the wind instead of human hands. I brushed my fingers along them and felt a strange warmth, as though the stones were remembering every person who had touched them before me. The atmosphere shifted again. Bird song drifted through the trees, but it came in patterns, not random melodies, but sequences like messages carried on wings. Each note echoed with intention. I stopped walking and listened carefully, letting the forest speak. For a moment, I felt as if the birds knew I was there and were guiding me forward. A soft mist began to rise from the ground, wrapping around my legs like cool silk. The sunlight fractured through it, breaking into golden rays that hovered in the air like suspended dust. It felt magical, not in an imaginary way, but in the way truth sometimes feels unreal because of its beauty. Then the trees opened, revealing a hidden terrace carved directly into mountainside. It was vast, much larger than anything I expected to find here. Layers of stone platforms descended in perfect order, each one covered in wild grass that swayed gently in the wind. I stood at the edge, unable to move, mesmerized by the sheer harmony of the place. This was no ordinary structure. This was engineering guided by spirit. Every stone, every angle, every terrace felt aligned with the heartbeat of the mountain. It was as if the people who built it did not dominate the land. They listened to it, followed it, became part of it. Emotion welled up in my chest. A tightness, a warmth, a kind of gratitude I couldn't contain. I had not expected to feel so deeply connected to a place I had never seen before. Drawn by an invisible force, I stepped down onto the first terrace. My feet sank into the soft grass, cool and alive beneath me. The scent rising from the earth was sweet, a mixture of soil, plants, and the faint perfume of distant flowers. It filled my lungs with life. As I explored the terraces, I found stone channels weaving through them, delicate grooves carved with such precision that water still flowed through them in thin, shimmering streams. The sound was gentle, like whispered stories. I followed one of the channels and watched how the water curved gracefully around each step of the structure, never rushing, never hesitating, just flowing with patience and purpose. Then I saw it, a doorway, not a modern one, not even a ruin, but a perfectly aligned stone opening at the base of a terrace, tall enough for a person to enter, framed by stones that looked impossibly smooth. My heart began to race. Excitement mixed with a hint of fear, not fear of danger, but fear of stepping into something sacred, something meant to be found only when the traveler is ready. I approached slowly, my hands trembling with anticipation. The air grew cooler near the entrance, almost icy, as if the mountain were testing me, asking whether my intentions were pure. I stood before the doorway, my breath steady, my soul wide open, and then I stepped inside. The world shifted, the temperature dropped, the sound of the wind vanished completely. It felt like entering the lungs of the earth, silent, vast, and ancient. Inside, faint light seeped through cracks in the stone ceiling, illuminating the narrow corridor. Dust particles floated in the beams of light like tiny, drifting stars. The walls were covered in symbols, spirals, steps, geometric figures, each one carved with precision that made my skin prickle. This place, this hidden chamber, felt alive, as if it were waiting for someone to return. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't just walking a trail. I was unearthing a forgotten heartbeat of the Andes, a heartbeat that now resonated perfectly with my own. Stepping onto the high platform carved into the cliff, I felt as if the sky itself opened its arms to welcome me. The wind rose gently, brushing my cheeks as though carrying the voices of those who once walked this sacred path. Below, the valley stretched like endless waves of green and gold, each one holding memories older than language. The clouds drifted slowly across the mountains, their shadows dancing over the ridges with a softness that made my heart swell. I stood there in silence, letting the world speak. The air tasted pure, clean, cold, almost sweet, and it filled my lungs with a strange yet comforting warmth. It was as if the mountain whispered, "You made it. You listened. You felt." I closed my eyes, and tears gathered without warning, not from sadness, but from gratitude. Gratitude for every stone that held my steps, for every breeze that guided my breath, for every hidden corner of this golden trail that opened itself to me like a long-kept secret. My journey had begun with curiosity, but somewhere along the way, it became something deeper, a reminder that the world still holds places that heal you without asking anything in return, that the earth still remembers, even when people forget, and that sometimes the greatest treasure is not found with your hands, but with your heart. As I breathed in the cold wind one last time, I felt a softness settle inside me, a calmness, a bright, quiet strength I didn't know I needed, the kind of strength that comes from truly being present, from seeing beauty not as a postcard, but as a living, breathing experience. I looked at the horizon, where the sun was slipping gently behind the peaks. Its golden light bathed the mountains in a glow that felt almost sacred, a final blessing before the night embraced the land. In that moment, I realized that this journey had changed me, not in loud, dramatic ways, but in subtle ones, in the way I now notice the wind, the way I now listen to silence, the way I now carry gratitude like a soft flame inside my chest. And before leaving, I placed my hand on the ancient stone beside me. Its surface was cool, steady, eternal. "I will return," I whispered, not to the exact place, perhaps, but to the feeling, to the spirit of wonder that this trail awakened in me. Now, my dear traveler, if you felt even a little of what I felt, if your imagination walked beside mine, if your heart opened, even for a moment, to the beauty of this sacred path, then I invite you to continue dreaming with me, because this is not the end. This is only the beginning of many journeys we will share together. So before we close this chapter, I lovingly ask you to subscribe to my channel, Suena Tu Vai Age. There, we will keep exploring the world through imagination, through emotion, through stories that make your soul travel, even when your feet cannot move. Join me on the next adventure. Let's continue walking together, through mountains, through dreams, and through every hidden path waiting to be felt. Until our next journey, I carry you with me, and may your heart always find its own golden trail.